when you're driving with a combustion engine and want to switch over to the electric drive mode, you put the gearbox into position neutral, push this button, and you can drive with the electric motor.
Motoring 92 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
Welcome to Munich, Germany. Hello everybody. This week we are winding up our motoring tour of Germany as the city of Munich experiences its first snowfall of the season. Now we're going to begin this week by showing you a car that at first may look familiar, but in actuality this car is a car of the future, and many are hoping that future is sooner rather than later. The car is called the Audi Duo. It's a production line Audi 100, but what makes this vehicle unique is that it runs on both gasoline and electricity.
The basic idea was that a lot of local authorities are talking about closing inner city areas for combustion engine powered vehicles, and we think that there is still a need for traffic delivery services and so on in these areas. And for this case, we have developed this vehicle with two propulsion systems, a conventional propulsion system for long-distance drives between cities, and an electric propulsion system for city drives, traffic in inner city areas. Now I want to show you the battery system of the vehicle. We put it here, right on the back of the car, and the spare wheel well. The battery on the right side, and on the left side you see the motor control unit for the electric drive system. The battery weighs 320 kilograms, but because of special springs, shock absorbers, and the brake system, we have no losses concerning payload or transport volume.
At first glance, it looks like a normal engine.
That's correct, and there are only a few changings needed for this vehicle to drive also electric. One of them is the electric gas pedal coupled to the normal gas pedal. And perhaps, kannst du mal bitte den Motor anmachen? Umschalten.
Now it's electric?
Now it's electric, so you can very easily switch over, also when the car is standing, also when it's driving. So there's no problem in the handling of the vehicle.
This belt down here that we're listening to right now?
This is the power steering system for the car, so when you're driving with the electric motor, you have also power steering, anti-block system, and power brake system. So there's no difference in the handling of the vehicle between the two propulsion systems. So when you're driving with a combustion engine and want to switch over to the electric drive mode, you put the gearbox into position neutral, push this button, and you can drive with the electric motor.
Now we're in electric.
This is electric.
And if you want to go back?
And if you want to go back, you only take away the gas, put the button again, put in a gear, and you're driving with the combustion engine again.
It must be very exciting.
It is really exciting because there are only few people in the German automobile industry working on this subject, and it's very good to be one of them.
So while Audi and other companies develop green cars, there are those who question whether the consumer will actually buy them, and whether the automobile industry is the environmental bad guy it's made out to be.
Well, people are heating their houses with fossil energies. People are using electricity coming from quite a lot of fossil energy. They are mainly discussing traffic because traffic is to be seen by everybody, and therefore the traffic is in the midpoint of discussion. Traffic has to cope with that and to work with that, but people have to think over whether they should change their home heating, whether they should change their energy consumption in total. Of course, also vehicles have to get cleaner and to get more fuel efficient, but since traffic is less than 10% of the energy consumption in the whole Western world, the other 90% have to be reduced as well. Well, an Audi Duo is, quite frankly speaking, more expensive than a normally produced vehicle. Therefore, we doubt that very many of our customers would change to such a product, since price is higher, and as long as volume stays low and also the technical efforts to reduce the weight and the volume of battery do not lead to a success, we don't think that that concept would be widely spread. That can be a local measure, but that's not a global measure for a longer period of time.
Is a completely green car a reality in our generation, our future?
Well, if you define the generation as a 30 years lifetime, then that may be at the end of our generation, but it doesn't look to be very near.
This is the future according to Audi. The Avis Quattro is built around a tubular aluminum frame weighing just 52 kilograms. But it's under the skin where this prototype excels. The 12-cylinder power plant kicks out 509 horsepower. It has no less than 60 valves, 5 per cylinder. The Avis snaps your neck back with acceleration from 0 to 100 kilometers in a staggering 3 seconds. Top speed is 340 kilometers an hour. The Avis was a big hit at the Tokyo Auto Show. No word, though, on when this rocket will go into production.
The Eurovan offers fully independent suspension. The ride quality is good and the amount of body lean in corners is kept under control. In a nutshell, not at all truck-like.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the newest member of the very rapidly growing minivan market. This is the 1992 Volkswagen Eurovan. Now this will replace the old and rather antiquated Vanagon in the lineup. The major differences between this and the old vehicle are found up front. Under the hood is a transversely mounted 5-cylinder engine which drives the front wheels via a 4-speed automatic transmission. The engine is rated at 110 horsepower and 190 pounds-feet of torque. At the best of times, the power production is barely adequate, and if you load the vehicle, it takes on a decidedly sluggish feel. As with many minivans, it seems as though outward appearance and interior design are given precedence over the utilization of an engine that offers sufficient power. The Toyota Previa is another good example of this rather inane design. Despite the appearance, we did not go out and purposely look for competing minivans. The sheer number that we did spot certainly emphasizes the popularity of these vehicles and is perhaps why VW expect to capture 4% of the market with their new minivan. Compared to the vehicle the Eurovan replaces, the designers have done a good job in making a rather boxy shape quite appealing to the eye. The thought put into the van continues in other important areas. This is one of the few minivans to incorporate side impact members in the doors, and they even thought to include a child-proof lock on the sliding door. The step up into the Eurovan is quite high and as such makes getting in and out a little awkward. In fairness, they have included an intermediate step, but it really doesn't help matters. Once inside, the passengers in all 7 positions are treated to extremely comfortable seats, especially the 4 captain-style chairs. The level of support they offer is second only to the seats in the Benz 400 SE. You can remove either or both the center seats and the rear seat folds and tumbles forward for improved cargo capacity. The drawback with this design is that the rear seat must be unbolted if you want to remove all the seats. This vehicle has a couple of very nice features, size and versatility being one. The second thing is, seated here you get a beautiful panoramic view of everything that's going on ahead of you, and thanks to 3 very large mirrors you know exactly what's going on behind you. The other thing, and I say this very much tongue-in-cheek, is that if you've ever yearned to be a bus driver, this is the vehicle that you should be driving. The steering wheel is slanted such that it feels exactly like the number 42 that runs to Wembley. However, not all is hunky-dory. The range of movement offered by the left-hand mirror is limited, so I was never able to adjust it to the right position. Secondly, you cannot operate both power windows at the same time. Now, for the life of me, I can't figure out why. The Eurovan offers fully independent suspension. The ride quality is good and the amount of body lean in corners is kept under control. In a nutshell, not at all truck-like. The brake system is of the front disc rear drum variety, the difference being a load-dependent brake pressure reducer. This little gizmo ensures the rear wheels do not lock up prematurely. Now, Volkswagen offer an optional anti-lock brake system, something I strongly recommend. My pet peeve with the Eurovan has to do with its height. Now, I'm 5'10", as you can see, this vehicle towers over me. The reason I mention this is that one of the key selling points of the minivans is the fact that they're garageable and can be parked anywhere with ease, including underground parking lots. Now, the height of this vehicle means that you must practice extreme caution when you're parking underground, otherwise you're going to take a chunk out of the roof. Now to the scoreboard for a rundown on the 1992 Volkswagen Eurovan. Obviously, with this type of vehicle, the handling characteristics are not given top priority. Having said that, the fully independent suspension gave the Eurovan a confident, sure-footed feel. The amount of body roll and the susceptibility to side winds are well within acceptable limits. Off the line, the Eurovan lacks punch. However, once you've gained some momentum, the pickup is reasonable, provided you're not fully laden. The Eurovan stopped from 80k in just over 123 feet. The pedal is easy to modulate, and even at the threshold there was no evidence that the rear wheels wanted to lock. In short, a very well-balanced system. The untruck-like ride combined with excellent seats gives the Eurovan a very comfortable feel. The level of engine noise is acceptable given its proximity. However, the amount of wind noise generated by the holes in the door mirror supports was rather loud at speed. During the test, we averaged 13.1 litres per 100 kilometres, or 21.5 miles per gallon. Not at all out of line for this type of vehicle. The Eurovan represents a quantum improvement over the Vanagon. However, with the competition in this category, Volkswagen have their work cut out for them if they are to realise their own sales expectations.
We are now in the old section of Munich, Germany. This area is where many of the visiting royal family used to reside. This structure is known as the Feldherrn House, and it's a memorial to many of the Bavarian kings dating back to the early 1300s. It's a tradition the Bavarians are very proud of. And speaking of tradition, it's always a tradition on this program each week to visit our man around the garage, Bill Gardner.
This week we're going to open up the mailbag and see what kind of letters we've got. We've received some letters from some folks who've got problems with their cars, and we're going to have a look at those, see if we can help them out with some of these problems. A fellow from Barry's Bay, Mr. McLean, he's got an 82 Toyota Supra with 114,000 miles on it, in good shape. The problem he's having is with his air conditioner. He's not getting any cooling effect from that. I'm sure he is this time of year, but when he gets to next summer, I guess he's looking at no cooling. And he's found out that somebody's checked it and said the condenser's gone. It's going to run him $800 or $900 to replace that part and recharge it. He wants to know if that's part of a certification if he ever did want to sell this car. It isn't, as long as the defroster system works properly in that car so it would clear the windows. The air conditioner doesn't matter. It's clearing, defogging, or defrosting of the windows that counts for certification. But for his own comfort, he may wish to resurrect this system. Now, if you've watched my segments before, you may have come to the conclusion that I'm not a big fan of air conditioning. If this were my car, I would not try and resurrect it. And advice to other people with older cars, if you're going to live without that darn thing, forget it. You'll just empty your wallet into fixing these darn things, and that refrigerant 12 will keep squirting out into the atmosphere and destroying the ozone layer. As far as I'm concerned, the government should out and out ban refrigerant 12 and let all those old junkers die off instead of trying to recycle it and regain it, because sooner or later it's all going to end up in the atmosphere, and it's bad news. So my advice would be to leave sleeping dogs lie. Anyhow, we've got another one here from a fellow in Don Mills. He's got an 88 Buick Century station wagon with a 3.8 liter V6. 4-speed overdrive automatic. He says that the transmission seems to go out of gear momentarily several times within a few seconds. Now, I get a lot of letters to this effect from people with overdrive automatics, and they always describe this kind of a situation as a transmission problem. I suspect that it probably isn't. Many, many times we find that we resolve this by tuning the engine properly and repairing that misfire. And in almost every case we found that it wasn't in fact the transmission. If it appears to be okay, the fluid's clean, and you don't have any other reason to go in there, stay away from that transmission as long as you can, because you may find out there's a tuning problem with that engine. And that's where I would suggest that he start, by looking at engine tuning. And I'd also caution people to, when they're describing these type of problems to their serviceman, service advisor, mechanic, whatever, just give him the symptoms only. Don't tell him you think there's something wrong with the transmission, you want the transmission checked or looked at. Before you know it, you can end up going down the wrong path and spending a lot of money, wasting a lot of time and money on repairs that weren't necessary. So just keep it short and sweet, symptoms only. Let him make the decision. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 92.
If you have any comments or stories you'd like to share with us, drop us a line at Motoring 92, Post Office Box 284, Station J, Toronto, Ontario, M4J 4Y1.
At the end of every motor racing season, a driver of the year is crowned. It could be Ayrton Senna or Michael Andretti. Well, we're going to leave Munich for a moment for a story about one of North America's newest drivers of the year. But as Nancy Zinos tells us, you won't find this driver at the racetrack, but you might find him sitting next to you at an intersection.
There are 4 parts to the challenge: a written exam, a precision test on the track, a car control segment on the skid pad, but most importantly, the road test, which is worth 40% of the final score.
On the track, we're looking for precision more than we're looking for speed, but that doesn't mean the little bit of enthusiasm isn't going to count with the instructors for a score, I'm sure, yes. On the road test, knowing the rules of the road, using their mirrors, keeping a proper safe following distance, all the little things that safe drivers do every day. The skid pad car control, this is the dynamic part of driving, showing us that they can create and control the car in skid situations.
We're in second gear. We're going to try to attempt what's called power oversteer. Now what we're going to do here is get the back of the car into a skid, more commonly known as a fishtail, or what most people commonly call it. The proper name for that is called oversteer. What we're going to try to do is create an oversteer situation and try to maintain it around the circle. We're going to see what happens. To create this slide, we will use the throttle. By use of the gas pedal, we'll induce this skid. So
you want me to give it a shot?
We'll give it a shot anywhere you wish. Give it a shot and let's see how it goes.
But little did the finalists know that Charlie Goodman and friends had a few tricks up their sleeves before the competitors even hit the road.
Well, we want to know if they're checking around the tires to make sure that they're inflated properly and that there isn't a broken bottle by the tire. Noticing the angle of the tires. In this case, the headlights had some dirt, the mirrors were dirty, and object on the dash. So all these things could add up to distractions or problems as a driver heads out on the road. We try to capture most of the rules of the road that they would have to know. They have to be, of course, aware of the speed limits and the stop signs and all the traffic signals, but also things like getting into the proper position for lanes, for turns, noticing road conditions changing up ahead. We had a road that narrows, for instance, and a couple of the drivers did spot it well in advance and made the necessary adjustments.
Third place, who wins the school with shifters, is the person who has the card that is identified as the 3 of spades, please. Very good. Okay, second place, whoever is sitting there with a card in their pocket that says that they have the 5 of hearts, please. 5 of hearts. And now lastly, the one that we've all been waiting for, if you have in your pocket a card that says you have the 4 of clubs, you are the winner.
So Darren Cosgrove put his skills to the test and was the best at the 3rd annual challenge, bettering older brother Mark.
Congratulations for number 1 being a finalist at 89, and he didn't give up even though he lost at 89. He came back, and here he is this year. Darren, you're certainly a worthy winner of the Wheels Trophy, and I'll turn it over to Richard Young to make the presentation. Richard Young from the Wheels. Oh,
very, very well done, sir.
Thanks very much.
Signal lights. What a concept. That's next in Kenzie's Corner.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
I got 3 complaints for you today. Number 1, the guy that changes lanes without using a signal. Happened to me just this morning coming down to the studio. Guy with a big white Chevrolet with P-O-L-I-C-E written on it. Had one hand on the radar gun, the other hand on the steering wheel. Whoa, no problem. Come on, dude, you're supposed to be setting an example for the rest of us. Second one, the guy that screams into the corner, hammers on the brakes, and just as he bends into it, then he puts the turn signal on. No. You're supposed to tell us that you're going to turn, not that you are turning. The third is the guy that's coasting along the highway, totally unaware, and the signal is blasting away. Now it happens to all of us once in a while. Maybe the radio's on too loud and you can't hear the clicker. Maybe the sun is so bright you can't see the flasher. But glance at your dashboard once in a while to make sure you're not one of these offenders. And by the way, if you see me pull up beside you and I'm going like this, doesn't mean I think you're talking too much. I mean, your left turn signal is on. This means your right turn signal is on. This just means, hi there. Turn signals, it's a simple concept. Down for left and up. Yeah, that's right. Down for left and up for right. I got it. So do your fellow travelers a good turn and don't forget to use that signal. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, we've come to the end of this week's program, and alas, we've also come to the end of our trip to Germany. But needless to say, we have had a tremendous experience, and we'll be taking home some wonderful memories. And speaking of home, make sure you join us next week because Jim Kenzie and Graham Fletcher will be joining me for our 2nd annual Car of the Year program. Until then, I'm Brad Diamond saying, Auf Wiedersehen from Deutschland.
Motoring 92 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.